Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's episode of Ask Asbury. July is Women's Health Month, and with me today is Dr. Ingrid Moss. She is a chiropractic doctor and functional medicine practitioner. Thank you for joining us today, Ingrid.
Thank you. So happy
Can
to
you
be.
tell us, can you tell everybody a little bit more about yourself?
So I'm a chiropractic physician. I grew up in Belgium and grew up in a holistic family. My father's a chiropractor. So it kind of like created that springboard of what kind of medicine that I wanted to practice. It also helped me to raise my family with a holistic focus. So now I practice functional medicine in the Chicagoland area, and I help women with their hormone needs. So I help them create a healthy lifestyle and then connect them with other practitioners.
Oh, well, that's awesome. So, as our women's health expert this month, let me ask you your first question. What do you think is one of the most misunderstood or under discussed topics related to women's health?
I think perimenopause is. A lot of women struggle during that time because they don't know that they're going through perimenopause.
hmm So, can you explain to us what perimenopause is?
Perimenopause is usually happens between the ages of 40 and 50, and in some women at 35. And that is when our hormones start changing, our sex hormones, the progesterone and estrogen. And some women, it can start at like even early as 35. If somebody has, a lot of stress in her life, that can kind of start this whole perimenopause a little bit sooner than others. It also depends on your lifestyle and everything. But what happens is that gradually progesterone starts to decline, and estrogen kind of is chaotic. But it brings about a lot of different signs and symptoms that you wouldn't think are hormonally related. Some patients really experience depression during that time or anxiety, weight changes, very a lot of signs and symptoms that nobody really tells them is related to their hormone changes or the hormone change that they are going through. It's a difficult time because, progesterone is declining, but estrogen kind of is chaotic. So it can create or heavy periods, but in some patients it can create shorter periods. So it's not straightforward, and that is what makes it very challenging to manage that,
Mhm.
the signs and symptoms and support that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting because I think, like you said, it's a misunderstood and under discussed topic that
Mhm.
I think people are starting to talk about a little more.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
At least in my circles, they
Yeah,
are. Yeah.
luckily. Yeah.
Yeah, luckily. So
Yeah.
what are some of the maybe the lifestyle interventions we can do around treating or managing the symptoms of perimenopause?
Yeah, I mean, very simple, straightforward steps that we can take is making sure that we move our body. The 10,000 steps a day is really good for you. Um, Exercising, doing more weightlifting is very important. Making sure, your diet, processed food really is not good for you. It takes more nutrients away than it puts in you. Um, Protein needs, if you start with just increasing your protein, a lot of people do not eat enough protein. And once you start counting your protein, you realize that you're under eating protein. And protein is very important for, your muscle health, for sugar regulation. We're really under muscled. So I would say making sure we build muscle is very important. So 30 grams of protein 3 times a day. There are You can put it like in ChatGPT or protein amounts of food, and just like create your own breakfast, lunch, and dinner meals so that you can make sure that you meet those protein needs. Tons of
Mhm.
green vegetables, a variety of vegetables, um, and sleep. Yeah, oh my gosh, sleep is huge. Sleep hygiene, making sure your room is at the correct temperature, making sure the room is dark enough, making sure there's no TV playing when you're falling asleep, giving your brain rest from your phone before you go to bed. So sleep is really like a huge priority in my belief, because if you have good sleep, then you have the energy the next day to make the meals that your body needs and to exercise. So those are kind of like basic, like
Hmm.
easy. I wouldn't say basic. What I mean is easy, different things to implement and you start to implement in your daily life if you would like to have change.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, how about from a medical standpoint, hormone replacement therapy and things like that? Is can you tell us how that
Well,
works?
what I do in my practice is that, HRT is a choice for a patient, and I think it has a place for sure, and it needs to be managed well. But it's also, you have to make sure that you introduce hormone therapy in a body that is ready for it.
Mm.
So my role with my patients is I do certain testing where I assess their adrenal health, I assess their gut health, I assess, different areas so that I support them with what I have in my toolbox, our nutritional supplements and botanicals, and so that the patient is ready when the time comes and they would like to use bioidentical hormones, then their body's ready for it.
Mm.
So usually perimenopause, the first hormone, if a patient chooses to do bioidentical hormone replacement, is progesterone. During perimenopause, estrogen therapy is a little bit challenging because, estrogen acts very chaotic during that time. So a patient can create estrogen dominance if they would start estrogen therapy at that time. So it's very important to be aligned with a practitioner that is familiar with it so that the hormones are being introduced at the right time.
Right, right. Is there an age where hormone replacement therapy or any of these other interventions won't work anymore? Or like
Yeah,
how long into the lifespan can a woman
I
address
mean, they
these?
used to say 10 years after menopause, but now more and more information is coming out stating that women can still benefit. Um,
Hmm.
they just have to go through more of a cardiovascular evaluation, a more detailed cardiovascular evaluation to make sure that they're okay to be put on bioidentical hormones. But now the belief is that a patient can start anytime.
Right. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of challenging, and maybe you can elaborate on this. For women in midlife who have a lot of demands on them, and there's some cultural expectations, that maybe hinder their ability to take care of themselves. Do you see that as a problem, or can you elaborate on what
Yeah. I mean,
you see?
around that age, we have aging parents that we need to take care of. We have, teenagers and um, kids off to college. So, um, but I see during that time that women, it's kind of like time for women to start creating boundaries. Um, so that they can take care of themselves without the guilt or without, and you see that a lot, that people are like, I don't have time to take care of myself. But the thing is, you have to. And so I see a lot of women at that age learning how to say no and learning how to, focus on positive relationships and focus on creating boundaries so that they can focus on themselves. Because ultimately, you have to take care of yourself in order to be able to take care of
Right.
others.
Right. And I think this is a good point to maybe pivot toward, your own self as an older adult someday. If you're in midlife now, these changes that you make now are really important with who you're going to be later.
Yeah.
As far as managing stress and your relationship with your hormone fluctuations and the impact on bone health and cardiac health, and because it really does affect your aging process.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
And the exercise, so we're talking about building muscle, so important for metabolic function, so important to protect our bones. And
mhm,
as you to elaborate about cardiovascular health and cognitive health, brain health and bone health, that's where more and more information is coming out where properly the dosage of bioidentical hormones really are important to support your cardiovascular health, your bone health, and your brain health.
Hmm.
There's so much, so many more cases of dementia out there now, and bone density is so important. And then cardiovascular health is still the first number one killer in women.
Hmm.
So why not look into seeing how to support our hormone health to support our brain, bone, and heart?
Right,
Yep,
right. Yeah, I think that's huge. And I think that women are moving past the skinny model kind of healthy stereotype. It's not about being thin; it's about being strong.
exactly.
And I
Yeah,
think that's a really important message for everybody listening and every woman to hear. Like, you have got to build some muscle. You have got to do resistance training. You've got to put some weight bearing through your bones to keep them strong. And we're talking like, it's some effort required. It's not just some little pink dumbbells.
exactly.
It
Yeah.
requires some actual effort, and that I don't. That's sort of the message I'm always preaching. Like, it's harder, it's more work than you're currently doing, probably. Like, you've
Yeah.
got to tax your
Another
body.
thing too is walking with a weighted vest.
Hmm.
Rucking, they call that. So, you start with 5 to 10% of your body weight. You don't exceed 20% of your body weight in a weighted vest, but that's a good exercise.
That's really hard.
Your
Yeah.
bones. Um, and then, like you say, resistance training, not with the little Barbie bells, but with, 20, with a good amount of muscle loading is very
Hmm.
important.
Yeah. And
So
if you don't know how to do
start
that,
there.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's important to find a professional that can help you, because there's a lot of help available for women. I think that even videos online, you can look on YouTube if you just need a free resource, or getting your own trainer if you have the resources for that. But I think there's so much work to be done just in the strengthening aspect and how beneficial that is for women.
yeah. And like you say, not only for bones, but for metabolic health, for cardiovascular health, muscle building is, if you are short on time to work out and you have to choose between on elliptical or lifting weights, definitely go to lift
With the
weights.
weights, I agree.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yep.
That becomes more of the preferred and beneficial workout in
Hmm.
menopause and menopause and beyond and postmenopausal.
Yeah.
So it's kind of feel like, this is a time that more women start to change their lifestyle from perimenopause and on, again, to support heart, brain, and bones.
And bone
That's
health.
really,
But
yeah,
also, I personally, anyway, like, I think the mental well-being you get from exertion and from weightlifting and even eating right. Like, once you're doing all these things, not only is there like a physiological benefit, but there's also like a sense of control. I think decreased anxiety about what is going on with me. Like, you're addressing it head on and you're doing the things, and I think there's some benefit to that as well.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And one more thing I wanted to mention, I think the impact of women sharing their experiences with other women. Um, because I know in my mother's generation, it really wasn't something that women talked about in midlife. They sort of went through it kind of quietly. And that, I think, also what you said, like, those changes that you go through with the hormonal fluctuations can create anxiety and create like the sleep disturbances, and you just feel kind of coming out of your skin, or maybe you feel like something is wrong and you can't identify it. So if you're personally working on these strategies that help improve, maybe your hormonal levels, but if you're sharing your experience with other women, you realize you're not alone. I think that
Yeah,
goes
absolutely.
that goes a
It,
long
it
way.
becomes a movement.
Yeah.
Yes, because there's a lot of signs and symptoms that you wouldn't think would be related to your hormone.
Oh, what are some of the interesting
For
ones?
instance, tinnitus, ringing in the ears, or itchy ears, or
Itchy ears?
itchy ears, yes. Or even when our estrogen goes down, I always say, when your estrogen drops, your histamine pops, meaning that you get more sensitive to seasonal allergies. So all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, never had seasonal allergies. And now I'm starting to have, sneeze or have itchy nose or,
Hmm.
have symptoms of seasonal allergies. But brain fog, sleep disturbance, there's so many different signs and some burning scalp. Um, and I feel like you say, like you share, you talk with other women, you start realizing, I'm not crazy. This is
Right.
really related to decreasing hormones or fluctuations in my hormones. That's a big thing with perimenopause. It's more the fluctuation, um,
Hmm.
which really affects your mood and your energy, your sleep patterns. Brain fog is a huge one, which can really affect women in the workforce to be, compatible with their male um,
Hmm.
colleagues. It's a lot of women are struggling, and but I do think that so you have to educate yourself. There's a
Hmm.
lot of good books out there. Um, you need to educate yourself because you need to know what questions to ask and um, how you would like to go through the hormone change
Hmm.
because you
Yeah.
have choices. And a lot of women think they don't have choices because their doctor might have said, no, that's bad for you, or you shouldn't do this or that. But I think self-education is very important.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you made a very good point about being your own advocate because, your provider, you can be picky and you can find the provider that you align with and aligns with your values and here's what you're saying. Personally, I go in with my list of I want to talk about all these things and I realize this might be a lot of time for you, doctor, but this is also my time, and
No,
we're good.
absolutely. I think
Yeah.
self-advocacy is very important, and you have the right to have choices. And but I have to say it is challenging. If you go into a doctor's office and you're not aligned with the doctor, then it
Yeah.
becomes difficult.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
finding somebody that will sit down with you and will listen to you, and I think that is like a huge step.
Hmm. And I think in the functional medicine space that you're in, the practitioners really are, they're interested in getting to the root cause, and they're interested in listening to all the crazy symptoms that you think you're experiencing, and getting to the bottom of it. More than maybe conventional medicine. Was more of a
Oh,
symptom
absolutely.
management thing.
Yeah,
So, as a little, take home message here, finding a functional medicine practitioner or an MD that aligns with that sort of thinking
exactly.
is
Yeah, it
a
really, yeah.
really good step. Yeah. Or
It's not
women's
going
health
to
coach.
like, it's very difficult to manage this in a 10-minute appointment.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
why I think a functional medicine practitioner um, they take their time. And so I think that's important to find a practitioner like that uh,
Hmm.
because you have the right to be heard. And, all your crazy signs and symptoms, are not crazy. And
Right.
that's what a lot of women need to
Right.
hear is that
Right.
there there can be a plan and there can be changes that you can make yourself to make changes, yeah,
Yeah. That's wonderful. Yeah. So hats off to all the
empowering
women out
other
there.
women, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
We're all in this together.
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah, but we all want to age as healthy as we can, as strong as we can. We want to cover all the bases of all the potential pitfalls, especially that begin in midlife. So that's why I was really excited to have you on today to talk about what goes on in midlife that we could address, in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. Going into your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, where it's not. You can set yourself up for the best course of
absolutely,
aging.
yes. Mhm.
Yeah. So, Dr. Ingrid, thank you so much for joining us today. This was super informative.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right. Well, thanks so much.